Hi there everyone, how you doing? It's Jeff C. It is Friday, August the 1st. Welcome to August, and I hope you are all doing well. Some people aren't doing so well in Africa. In fact, out of Liberia, there has been an ongoing Ebola outbreak, which looks like it's taken a turn for the worst, or at least according to the corporate media. This has been ongoing for some time. Now it looks like it's spreading to other areas, and the first patients are being brought into the United States. In fact, there's 2 of them, but I'll get to that in a bit. I just want to go over some of the news coming off the corporate news here. Standard Digital Health here has the article. Headline: Ebola. Doctors told to prepare for global Ebola outbreak after victim was allowed on 2 planes. In Liberia, Patrick Sawyer, whose sister also died from Ebola, was allowed on 2 Askai airline flights in Liberia while infected. Doctors fear Ebola victim Patrick Sawyer may have sparked a worldwide spread of the killer disease after being allowed on 2 flights while infected. Fucking hell. And tonight, a desperate race was on to find dozens of passengers who flew on the same jets as the 40-year-old American. Now, that's exactly how it would spread if it did spread, one of these things. Of course, this might be all part of the plan, would it not? And how they tease us with all their, Walking Dead and stuff like that. But wouldn't that be nice for the New World Order to have some terrible outbreak that would kill whatever 60-70% of people that get infected with it? So let's hope to God that this isn't true and this isn't as bad as they're saying it is. British doctors and border officials have been warned to be on the lookout for people in the UK showing signs of disease. Mr. Sawyer was allowed to aboard the Askai Airlines flight in Liberia, where Ebola is rife. Despite vomiting and suffering from diarrhea, his sister was recently killed by the virus. So they let him on a plane. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know, maybe Liberia is not very strict when it comes to these things, but you see some guy vomiting all over the place, and you're going to let him on the plane, especially when there's an outbreak going on? I don't know. Could be planned. He had a stopover in Ghana and then changed planes in Togo and flew to the international travel hub of Lagos in Nigeria. The dad of 3 died 5 days after arriving in the city. Lancaster University virologist Derek Gatherer said passengers, crew, and airport ground staff who came into contact with Mr. Sawyer could be in pretty serious danger. Ebola is fatal in 90% of cases, so scratch what I said before. It's 90% what they're saying in this article. Doctors have identified 59 people who are near him and have tested 20, but they are struggling to find the others. Who could have flown to anywhere in the world from Lagos, right? It's an international hub. So, stops in a few different airports, including a hub. And, how many people did he come in contact with? We have no idea. That's a staggering sort of thing. And the way that people move around, the way that these airports, these hubs come together, I mean, whoever came in contact with him could quickly go to another hub and spread it all around. And you don't know it could take 2 days, they say, to 3 weeks for these symptoms to start. So, anyway, so I'll continue on here. There were today questions over how Liberian government worker Mr. Sawyer was let on flights while clearly showing the symptoms of Ebola, which has killed 672 people in Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone since it outbroke in February. Experts from the Public Health England have met UK border agency officials to make sure staff are aware of the signs to look for in Ebola sufferers. The PHE has also used its National Medical Alert System to advise UK doctors to remain vigilant for unexplained illness and those who have visited the infected area. Symptoms include vomiting, diarrhea, fever, weakness, headache, and sore throat. So yes, the Ebola virus, I haven't covered it. I've been covering so many things, but this could be the granddaddy of them all. I mean, if we actually had a serious outbreak, if this thing became how do they say, airborne, that if you could get it like you could catch a cold, could you just imagine 90% of people coming in contact, the world would stop overnight. It would be, they would be locking people up. It would be so frickin' severe. And of course, we would have no way of really knowing what was really going on, because then we would be completely dependent on the corporate media, which lies to us all the frickin' time. And their reports, which would no doubt keep us in a state of fear, and would be the perfect time to roll out those FEMA camps, wouldn't it? So the Ebola virus it's known as Ebola hemorrhagic fever, is a human disease caused by the Ebola virus. Symptoms typically start 2 days to 3 weeks after contracting the virus, with a fever, throat, muscle pains, and headaches. There is typically nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, along with decreased functioning of the liver and the kidneys. At this point, some people begin to have problems with bleeding. The disease can be acquired when a person comes into contact with blood or bodily fluids of an infected animal, such as a monkey or a fruit bat. And I think they were talking about fruit bats as being one of the main carriers of this. Fruit bats are believed to carry and spread the virus without being affected by it. Well, the fucking bastards. I have nothing against bats, but come on, right? Once infection of a human occurs, the disease may spread from one person to another. Male survivors may be able to transmit the disease via their semen for nearly 2 months. To make the diagnosis, typically other diseases with symptoms such as malaria, cholera, and other viral hemorrhagic fever are first excluded. The blood may be tested for antibodies to the virus or the viral RNA or the virus itself to confirm the diagnosis. Preventions includes decreasing the spread of the disease from infected monkeys and pigs to humans. This may be done by checking these types of animals for infection and killing and properly disposing of the bodies if the disease is discovered. Properly cooking meat and wearing protective clothing when handling meat may also be helpful, as is wearing protective clothing and washing hands when around a person who has a disease. Yeah, you betcha. I'd be washing my hands like crazy if I was around some guy in an airport who started vomiting. Sample of bodily fluids and tissues from people with the disease should be handled with special caution, no doubt. There is no specific treatment for the virus. Efforts to help persons who are infected include giving them oral rehydration therapy, and intravenous fluids. The disease has a high mortality rate. Now, I said before 60. It says on Wikipedia here 50 to 90% of those die. The disease was first identified in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. It typically occurs in outbreaks in tropical regions of the sub-Saharan Africa. Between 1976, when it was first identified, through 2013, fewer than 1,000 people a year have been affected. The largest outbreak is the ongoing 2014 West Africa Ebola outbreak, which is affecting the countries aforementioned, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, and probably into Nigeria. Now, efforts are ongoing to develop a vaccine. However, none exists of 2014. Very, very frightening. And a perfect way to control people, too. I mean, people will panic if this thing reaches the U.S. So, getting to more of the latest coming off the CBC News here, Ebola outbreak The WHO launches a 100 million plan as death toll tops 700. So Sierra Leone declares public health emergency as other West African nations set up new airport controls. So the World Health Organization, better known as WHO, is launching a 100 million response plan to combat the unprecedented outbreak of Ebola in West Africa that has killed 729 people out of the 1,323 infected since February. So they're going to meet, the WHO Director, General Margaret Chan, will meet with Conakry, Guinea, on Friday, while with the presidents of the affected West African nations. The United Nations Health Agency said in a statement, the scale, this is a quote here, the scale of the outbreak and the persistent threat it poses requires WHO and Guinea and Liberia and Sierra Leone to take response to a new level, and this will require increased resources, in-country medical expertise, regional preparedness, and coordination. So the plan identifies the need for several hundred more personnel to be deployed in the affected countries to ease the strain on the overstretched treatment facilities, the WHO said. Clinical doctors and nurses and many other specialists are being called in. So, you know, scary stuff. It's the stuff of nightmares, of course. It's the stuff of movies and television, right, that something like this would happen. And I think that's been on the cards for quite some time. How does this guy get on different airplanes? You know, how do they let him get on to the first plane in Liberia, especially since he's vomiting, right, and they already have an outbreak? I mean, wouldn't they be screening people like crazy for this? So I have bad news for Americans. There are 2 Ebola-infected Americans coming to the U.S. for treatment. So this is Kent Brantley and Nancy Wright-Bull will be treated at Atlanta's Emory University Hospital. So they're bringing these people in, and the patients will be kept in an isolation chamber that was set up in collaboration with the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, and every precaution is being taken to move the patient safely and securely to provide critical care en route on a non-commercial aircraft and to maintain strict isolation upon arrival in the United States, the State Department said in a statement Friday. Now, Dr. Bruce Ribner of the Emory University Hospital said during a news conference on Friday, 1 patient will arrive in the next several days, and then a second patient will be coming a few days after. Ribner said that a patient with Ebola virus has never been treated in an institution in the United States. Well, they're going to bring them there anyways, right? But he did not believe there was a great risk of secondary infection from the patients. We have 2 individuals who are critically ill, and we feel that we owe them the right to receive the best medical care. I wonder who's paying their medical bills. Hospital sent out the following on Thursday. So this is the statement from the hospital. The Emory University Hospital has has a specially built isolation unit set up in collaboration with the CDC to treat patients who are exposed to a certain serious infectious disease. It is physically separate from other patient areas and has a unique equipment and infrastructure that provide extraordinarily high level of clinical observation. It is something out of a sci-fi horror movie, it sounds like. And I'm going to stick them in some place and just keep them isolated and fucking have robots and people like totally, you know, wearing all the rubber on the hands and the masks and everything. I mean, who knows, right? Emory University Hospital physicians, nurses, and staff are highly trained in specific and unique protocols and procedures necessary to treat and care for this type of patient. For the specifically trained staff, these procedures are practically on a regular basis throughout the years, so we are fully prepared for this type of situation. Well, let us hope they are, because they're taking a bit of a chance bringing back Ebola people for the first time into the United States. I don't know, you know, it's a bit of a worry, and I'm not one of these guys. I'm telling you, if you haven't listened, this is the first time you're coming in. I'm not one of these guys that hits the panic switch when these stories spring up. I treat them with a great deal of skepticism. But nonetheless, I can totally understand the severity of something like this. I think the real fear is if it does mutate, and of course, maybe that's what they want. So that it becomes airborne, and then it'll be like the common cold. Then you will not be able to stop it no matter what, and it'll reach every corner of the world, and people will be living in The Walking Dead. I guarantee you, if that were to happen. And boy, won't those preppers feel great then? I mean, they won't feel great, but they'll feel like fuck. All this was definitely a wise decision. But like what we have to think about as well is that if this were to outbreak in North America, that the federal laws that could come into play, like for instance, in the United States, the federal laws permit the apprehension and examination of any individual reasonably believed to be infected with a communicable disease. So if they even suspect at all that you could have it. I mean, you might have no symptoms whatsoever, but you know somebody who knew somebody, or you happen to be at this place at that time, and bang, you're you're isolated, and you could be isolated for days, weeks, months. Who knows? You just don't know. These individuals can be detained for such a time and in such a manner as may be reasonably necessary. Right, so could this be what we might see with FEMA camps? In addition, the federal government also has the authority to separate and restrict the movement of persons who may have been exposed to a communicable disease to see if they become ill. They have the right to impose martial law, of course. The CDC also can issue a federal isolation or quarantine order. And this is what they say. Isolation and quarantine are public health practices used to stop or limit the spread of disease. Isolation is used to separate ill persons who have communicable disease from those who are healthy. Isolation restricts the movement of ill persons to help stop the spread of certain diseases. For example, hospitals use isolations for patients with infectious tuberculosis. Quarantine is used to separate and restrict the movement of well persons who may have been exposed to the communicable disease to see if they may become ill. So there's a lot of things that are really dicey with this. Isolation would not be a voluntary thing, of course. The federal government could start hunting down anybody that they reasonably believe to be infected with a communicable disease. As I said before, it could be just you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they don't like you. I don't know. Get those people out of their house and put them in the quarantine. Who knows, right? But that's what I'm saying is it's going to be hard for us to trust the media on this story. I mean, especially if an outbreak occurs. How are we going to know for sure what is really going on? I mean, they could fake a whole outbreak, or they could have a contained outbreak and then make you think the end of the world is happening. They could say any numbers possible. I mean, it really, really could, so many things could happen. So, I don't know. I'm going to remain positive. I'm going to hope that this is the worst of it and it doesn't get any worse. These are scary things, because if you think they want to quarantine people, they will. If they've got the excuse, they're going to use it, and martial law could be declared. I mean, it really could be the thing that really brings in the New World Order. I don't know. I really don't know. It could be a whole lot of baloney. It could be real. It could be, that we're on the verge of a major outbreak, and the last time we had one is in the Spanish influenza, over 100 years ago or near there. So it's been a long time since we've had a major outbreak, and this looks like it could be. I don't want to panic, though. I'm not panicking. Don't panic. Just be prepared. I'd say get lots of water and food on hand. You know, if you need to get some of those surgical masks, you know, just in case you need to go out in public, and if there is an outbreak, and it's like that, well, you can put on a mask like that. You'd probably be okay to go to the supermarket or whatever, right? So, and do your job and whatever, if you're still allowed. Anyways, I hope it's not as serious as it sounds. I really thought I should report on it, and I hope I didn't scare anybody too much. I'd really like to hear whatever information you might have on this, what your thoughts are, and I look forward to reading your comments below, and I wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.